BC's latest hospitalization numbers show a massive increase in the past few weeks. Overall, hospitalizations, which typically lag behind spikes and dips in new cases, are up by 283% from a month ago. Sarah Galashan joins us now from Coquitlam, BC, to take us through some of this new data. So, Sarah, a big question many have is, how many of these hospitalizations are unvaccinated people?
Andrew, 85% of the 261 COVID-19 patients in hospital right now are unvaccinated. Just to give you some perspective here, a month ago exactly, there were 68 COVID-19 patients in BC hospitals. And of the patients right now who are in hospital, 129 of them are in ICU. And a month ago, there were just 20 patients in ICU with COVID-19 in BC. That's an increase of 545%. It's a big spike that we have seen over the last month in terms of what's happening in BC's hospitals. In terms of the vaccination rates in British Columbia, as of yesterday, 85.2% of eligible people 12 years and up in British Columbia had one dose, and 77.7% were fully vaccinated. And we know, based on the modeling that has been presented, that just the slightest amount of increase in the number of people vaccinated could have an effect, a positive effect on what we're seeing happening in hospitals. And to that, we have seen, increased interest and increased number of people getting vaccinated upon learning that there's the proof of vaccination card coming into play. That comes into play September 13th in BC. So we have seen the numbers going up in terms of vaccination, but we also know, Andrew, that from the modeling, it's going to take a number of weeks to actually see an effect in hospitals. So we're watching for that, of course.
And given Alberta's hospitalizations and warnings that the system there could become overwhelmed, right on the verge of collapse is some of the language that's being used, what sort of capacity does BC have?
So elective surgeries, had been postponed in British Columbia, but that all resumed back in May. May 7th is when it started up. Over the summer, there have been COVID outbreaks happening, particularly in the interior around Kelowna. And we did see some elective surgeries having to be postponed or rescheduled in and around that area. Nothing widespread. And we know from authorities in British Columbia that that's a priority. We do not want to see that having to happen again in British Columbia. That said, hospitals, particularly in the interior, have really been pulling double duty throughout the summer in terms of crises. They've been dealing both with the BC wildfires, also with COVID-19. And in some cases, we've been hearing reports of nurses who have been, emergency room nurses specifically, who have been leaving their jobs, in relatively high numbers because of stress and burnout. Certainly, Royal Inland Hospital in Kamloops has been affected by this. We're hearing reports from them. And yesterday, add to this part of the conversation, a local radio station reporting that a 70-year-old woman went to a Royal Inland Hospital, to the emergency room, complaining of stomach pains. She was assessed, but did die in the waiting room waiting to be treated. There is no conclusive, we don't know at this point exactly what the cause of death is or whether it could have been prevented, but she did triage for 6 hours in that emergency room. And so, as I say, Andrew, the greater conversation about capacity and what's going on in the hospitals, that's going to, add into it as we deal with not just new growing numbers of COVID-19 patients, but, fewer numbers in some cases of emergency room nurses who are burnt out and don't want to deal with it anymore.
Yeah, and you can't blame them. It has been a tough year and a half, but definitely a concerning situation in many parts of the country. Sarah, thank you.